I'm not a robot journalist. No, he's a real journalist. His former life, or even still, you're going as a reporter and a journalist to countries like Somalia and south of Sudan, which is kind of challenging, as you know. And in this other heart of his journalistic life, he's talking and he's very into automated journalism, what this is, what kind of partnerships are interesting in this context, etc. Wolfgang Zehrt is talking about, and I think this is really what makes you a very different consultant to many others, this kind of combination. So enjoy.
Yeah, thank you. Great you're here. So take the very last of your power of the 2 days for the next 20 minutes. And big advantage of Berlin is, you know, we have problems with the new international airport. So if you go to the airport, think about the new international airport, you will need 1.5 hours to take it. It's only 20 minutes from here. So you have fully time. Why is it important for me to say that I'm not a robot journalist? I do journalism as well. So in South Sudan, for example, in a Somali country, not Somalia, that's dangerous, but Somali country. The reason is very simple. I sit together with editors of national and international newspapers and magazines maybe 3 or 4 times a month. And the difference, if I'm sitting there as a pure technical advisor, or as a so-called in Germany, a techie or a developer, or if I really know a little bit about the job as a journalist. And so the first thing I have to explain is we are not on the way to replace journalists. We add something. We add new content, new chances of content. And traditional, careful BBC said 90% of all the news will be computer generated in maybe it's 9 years from now. And the BBC, I was first a little bit shocked, and I thought, oh my God, that's really fake news from BBC now, that cannot happen. What I mean is completely correct. They're right, because these are the media brands I'm working at the moment with, or during the last 12 months. Nothing is older. All these are going into the direction to build automated content. I try always to avoid robot journalism. Even it's a little bit more sexy, for me it's automated content. And this is the reason why the BBC is right. At the moment, one editor writes one story. If there is time enough, the editor maybe writes a second version, a little bit shorter. If there's plenty of time, maybe a third version for a different target group. All this can happen with automated content automatically in the future, and it will. So at the moment we have on the left side of this fantastic graph, we have the current news situation. There's one news release, there's one article, that's it. Now you start to do one out of one data set, the next story out of one text, the third story, and you end up with chatbots, and I cannot, of course, count how many viewers the chatbot maybe will have or would have. You have regionalized versions, and I show you later 5 case studies. You can really see that it's a reality, it's not a vision, it happens. I think this is known as, more or less commodity of automated content right now. It's weather reports. I was responsible for a big cooperation with the American Weather Channel. We don't count it. I think it's daily up to 300,000 weather reports for more or less each region in the world. We started with Border 4 years ago with financial reports from the stock exchange. We added a German Handelsblatt with hundreds of releases a day. And not unimportant, it's a frequent asked question. In 1.5 years of Handelsblatt daily stock exchange reports, every 15 minutes we made exactly 2 mistakes. 2 in 1.5 years. And we have soccer reports, of course. Soccer, maybe it's not so complicated to imagine. It's the most complicated thing you can do with automated content. It was a big mistake of myself 4 years ago as a board of a news agency. I had a great idea to start with soccer because I thought it's so easy to do. It's the opposite, of course. The stock exchange report is very simple if you compare it with soccer. Soccer you need, it's dramatic, it's emotion, And you must get emotion out of data. That's really tricky. And I come later to this point, where then, finally, I think this year, artificial intelligence starts. At the moment, everything is based on rules. It's not artificial intelligence. And if you have a glance at this fantastic beginning of a report, I think most of you will agree the difference to what a sport editor will write, quality-wise, is not so big. I don't want to go too much into details, but for a software, I think you can imagine to write that it was hard, this victory. How the hell a software can decide that a fight was hard? I mean, it's interpretation. This was a process of 1 year to integrate it. And now we are with rule-based automated text generation on the end. Now we need artificial intelligence to improve it more and more. But that's not so bad, I guess. And it was a case for the Daily Telegraph. And even for your interest, a small view, this is the data for the soccer report you saw before. I don't know if you are used to data like this. This is a typical Scout report from it's an international service provider for sport data, Delta 3. It's a cooperation partner. And it's 5% of the data we need for only one report of 1 page. So it's a little bit work to do, but not for us, for the software. Sorry, that's German, but another big step was, for example, to integrate quotes into automated text, because you need a second source of data. You must get text out of text and integrate it in a data-based text. That's, for a normal editor, very easy. For the software, it was complicated. If you have integrated it once, it's an automatic process. If you see this, what we do now, we get other data on board. If we write something about Frankfurt International Airport or London International Airport, maybe as a reader of financial portals, you want to see what is the peer group doing, what is with all the other service suppliers, the logistics service suppliers. So you can get more data on board, make it more and more sophisticated. And then maybe you have the idea, and it's always, I'm coming back, of course you need a journalist behind. The software is not able to think what is nice to report. It's the editor-in-chief, it's the editor-in-large, it's the editors themselves thinking what is maybe an interesting topic we can really have a software for, and it's not always the case that it's ready to publish the product. So, for example, Handelsblatt have the possibility always, each second, to go into the text, change it, add something, add a quote, take parts of an interview and integrate it in this text. It's not written in stone. And now, we are on the border that we start now with really longer articles, with more sophisticated content. And the question of all, why the hell we should do it? It's not only the endless number of stories you can print. It's 100% precise. It's unique. So we did a project together with Google, and yes, even Google, the confirmation is it is a unique text Google-wise. We do it without vacation. The software is never ill, and we do it at the moment in, I guess, 28 or 29 languages. Arabic, Mandarin, and Cantonese is not the most difficult. It's Finnish and Hungarian. All languages. And if you start with automated content, you're on the way to have a fundament for chatbots, for paid services, and for automated audio and video versions. At the moment, we work together with a startup based in Israel to produce out of our text automated video content. At the moment, let me say my kids are 9 and 12, for them it's okay to look at it. For other journalists and grown-ups, a little bit, I think we made 80% of the way. It's not really perfect, it's not BBC quality, but I think we need one more year. And then you take the real-time data from the stock exchange, you have in 0.4 seconds such an article about a current situation at the stock exchange, and 1 second later, you have a perfect video, and if you like, an audio. Personalized stories. We had a funny request from a regional newspaper. They want us to write articles about a sport. It's only known in very, very northwestern part of Germany. I think abroad it's absolutely unknown. And maybe somebody's here from this area. It's a Boseln. You play it on a normal street with a big ball, and I think the most important thing at this sport is to drink a lot during doing the sport. And they have hundreds of championships in September and October, for what reason ever. And so I asked her if it's possible to have automated content about this fantastic Bosel sport. And yes, of course it's possible, but sometimes it's really cheaper and easier to do it manually. But personalized stories, no, I have a case study later for it. Smallest target group. You have once a setup. Think about target groups you're not writing for at the moment. Unemployed young people under 18, yes, they have special interests, special needs. They have a special need of information, maybe. You can write for them from the one data set you have for a lot of target groups. It's very fascinating for me as a journalist. Yeah, running costs. That's the reason some journalists, of course, are afraid. But if you tell them, I absolutely believe that's true. You sell your content if you make it happen that your brand is known, that a brand is trusted, and honestly, even some players from the States, they say, we will win the Pulitzer Prize with our software in 10 years. I don't believe it. The brand building, the reputation building of New York Magazine will always happen by editors, always, the next 20 years. What we do, we add information, but not the brand building. A project together with Financial Times in London, there we do a lot of data analysis. Honestly, Financial Times will not print one-to-one our automated content. They save what they say with our data analysis and writing drafts about a very complicated economic situation. They save each month up to 80 hours editorial time for analysis of data. And why we shouldn't send figures or Excel sheets? We send them drafts they can work with. And now a little bit more hands-on, I hope. Paid services. This is a project we do at the moment for a financial portal. If the trust of our client regarding the turnover is correct or not, I can really not judge. But if you compare monthly costs of $12,000 with the chance to make up to $80,000 out of the project, it can work. For such a project, okay, we cannot work with our editors. We work, of course, with tough financial analysts to make it happen. This is far away from a paid service. You cannot sell it, even not in France, I guess. The databases is coming for free. It's the Ministry of Employment. How should a news agency deliver, after getting the data on board in 1 second, a regional article for 101 departments? In each department, we deliver an article and a summary for the target groups of younger adults. We summarize the job opportunities. Is it really great idea to become in Paris a taxi driver or not? And finally, of course, we established, together with a partner, a chatbot system. This is possible, let me say, journalist-wise, out of not so fascinating employment figures from a ministry. See the story behind. And one remark, we have to first really finding out of our data analysis a journalist from this magazine never made. And the journalists, the editors were really astonished. This is a little bit more my topic. I think if you have trainees, young editors in your editorial room, and you have something, a category about cars. So in Germany, it's really typical. Each month we have this, this month the Toyota XYZ is the most sold car from Asia, and the Mercedes-Benz is the most sold car from Germany. Okay, you read it or not? Take from your, maybe you have it, your platforms. Compare these for an article with the figures you have from your car selling platform. Take the open data from the police. Yeah, I mean, it's not, and that's what I said before, it's not a brand building story, but of course it's nice if you don't have to take care about it to write the most sold car this month is also the most stolen car. And I think a lot of potential car drivers and car buyers will maybe read the story. This is our favorite project at the moment. This is the draft for the first completely automated news portal. And it's the personal wish of a chairman of a bigger publishing house. On the left, cake rises, Germany needs bakers. Yeah, sure, because nobody wants to start working at 4 o'clock in the morning. So data is free, Ministry of Employment. This is a little bit more tricky. 90-year-old granny overcomes 3 bandits, because here we take key findings out of police press releases. So we build text out of text. That's tricky, but it's more and more possible. Air pollution, figures about pollution. In every country in the world you have them. Maybe not any longer in the US, sorry. You have the China stock market, you have soccer, and happy birthday, Madonna. Yes, it's possible as automated content, and show you in the next case study why. And of course, you have the selling figures of Volkswagen. So shocking new Volkswagen is a non-seller. It's not tricky at all. So you can build a complete news portal out of data. There's something we do at the moment. It's from the number of articles is the biggest project we have. 38 million summaries. Nice project. And we write summaries about 800,000 movies in different formats. And this is a wish of the client. We change the text automatically every 4 weeks without doing anything. Yeah, checking if it happened. I'm doing it in 18 languages. And the most tricky thing there is really, we work together with some movie databases. And if a movie database, we have an interface with, an API. If there is, for example, added that one of the actors of one movie died, don't care about it. So our articles in each format will be customized automatically. The news will integrate it without any manual help. And it seems that the client is really happy at the moment. You never know. How to start a project? I think, honestly, you learned a lot about video and everything in the last 2 days. What I missed is maybe the biggest problem to do something new in a publishing house. And I'm really talking about my personal experience. This, let me say, challenge or weakness, it's called the IT department. First, there are never no resources. B, there are so many sprints in the future that it's impossible even to think about a new project. Third, normally no managing director is able to judge if the IT department is really not able to do it, as long as the IT director says it's not possible. I think that's a major problem for the most of all digital changes. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my personal experience. But if you identify a topic, think about it, and you can think about your own. If the needed data is there, if there's an access to a database or not, you can ask. There are service suppliers for automated content all over the world. I mean, altogether, it's not a big trade. We have 7 or 8. Get the data on board. Sounds easy. Sometimes our clients need half a year for it. And at the latest then, it's a normal editorial conference, and you sit together with the editors and you really plan what your new colleague, and it's a new colleague, your robot, should write in the future. And you talk about the wording, about the style. He's like a trainee, a little bit stupid, you must explain a lot of things, but then he is really a great worker. Yeah, then you have new colleagues with for a very reasonable price, I guess. Sometimes the ideas for a topic comes from your team, that's great. I would not directly expect it. Think about your target groups, what is maybe possible. There are so many possibilities. I mean, not only in Europe we have this open data policy, and a lot of countries more. It's possible to get access to data. And what I really, from my experience, suggest, make a feasibility study with external suppliers before you start big discussions in your editorial room. Because maybe you come to the conclusion that's not for us, the quality is not good enough, the topic is not interesting enough. You can do this really behind the scene, and if you have the feeling that it could really work, it's a really great project, we should go for it, then talk with the editors, and then it's easier to convince them. And this is an experience we made with several clients. The first reaction is always, oh, we plan the content from the very first second. You don't have to take care about it. And now I'm a little bit smiling always and say, okay, yeah. When do you really want to plan the content? When do you really want to discuss about the needed data? After 5 days, normally the client calls and say, okay, we don't find the time for it, can you do it? So yeah, it is work, it is really work to think about it, and the worst experience is really if managing director, chief and editor, IT director is going to the editors and say, here's a new project from our robot journalism, please go for it. It takes really time away, it's time consuming, and it's not the best starting point. But anyway, the perfect last cut of the content, of course, it's the editors, nobody else. Okay, one back, because this is a remark I cannot forget. There's one interesting reason why at the moment German companies are not so bad in automated content. And the first guy who discovered it was Mark Twain. I think it's a really unknown book of him. It's the name of the book is The Awful German Language. And he's completely right, because only in German it is possible to interrupt yourself during one sentence for 10 or 20 times. It's grammar-wise absolutely correct. It's more or less not possible in so many other languages. That means if you can really build with a software a correct German sentence, let me say English is a little bit easier, and all other languages as well. So Mark Twain was more or less the first guy to say Germans go for automated content. That's it.
Wolf, thank you very much. Do you have a last question? after 2 days? No, not really. One question, silly or maybe very naive question at the end. If I imagine your algorithms working, supported by AI, to detect wrong stories through and fake data or fake journalism, etc., I just thought of, could you discover, if you compare different data, the stories which are fake amongst a lot of other data that is there, to judge it? Do you know what I'm looking about?
I guess, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned before that we did 2 mistakes in 1.5 years of Handelsblatt.
How did you figure out?
Yeah, the reason is that our software is able to check up if the sentence she is writing can be true with a chance of more of 95%. So she is writing a sentence and is comparing, in the moment of writing, the data she is using with historical data. So if she is now, for example, writing Volkswagen, the shares of Volkswagen are going down today for 80%. That's simple. She would stop writing and would say, I mean...
That doesn't fit.
Yeah, cannot be.
Cannot be.
We have, of course, issues like Volkswagen. It's possible, of course. It's going down for maybe, let me say, 12%. Can be, and even then you have to define what is the border from where this is unlogical. And what you said, it's great, because you said if our algorithm can more or less control the artificial intelligence or
No. In connection with AI, would control then?
At the moment, and I have full understanding of marketing statements, but at the moment, automated content is not artificial intelligence, because it is really rule-based. Without an algorithm, you cannot do automated content.
Still, but maybe in the future?
I'm working together with a developer team in Abu Dhabi, and they showed me now 3 weeks ago, and I was not able to understand it, and this is a clear signal it must be artificial intelligence, because they cannot explain it anymore. The software starts to write articles out of soccer data, and you have no idea what the outcome will be. So if I know the rules, I can say this is a data set, this is a soccer report, and I have a good feeling for what the software will write. Artificial intelligence means you cannot see exactly the rule work, because there's a basic rule work, but that's it. But yes, the software is able to control itself, yeah.
One last question. You talked about these 80,000 videos. The algorithm is...
800,000.
Huh? Sorry?
800,000.
800,000, sorry.
Doesn't matter.
But the algorithm is listening in Anführungsstrichen to the videos, seeing them, and then texting. I didn't get that.
No, that's a wish for the future, but maybe it will happen in 5 years or so. No, it's much easier. We have movie databases where only our real data.
Yeah.
So date of first showing in the cinema and so on, age of the actor, and we take these data.
Okay.
But it's an interesting idea.
Okay, let's see. Next year. Okay, thank you very much, Wolfgang Zehrt.
Thank you.
You are the last Mohikaner, we would say in German. At the end of the day, I tend to speak more German. Thank you very much for being the last listeners to us. See you again next year. Thank you very much to this great technic team and to this great camera team and all the other algorithms in the room. See you again next year. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.